anything.
Okay, can you push the camera button on and off, because you went off? I don't see you in a window.
All right, I've got myself. I can see myself up in the corner.
You're gone from here.
I'm gone.
Yeah, just push the camera on and off. In the Skype window.
All right, how's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, dear friends, today with us again, renowned researcher, antiquarian, Freemason, and jurist Robert W.Sullivan IV, and we're gonna explore some surprising stuff. Last time we spoke about very telling sequel Route 66, which faded some kind of in oblivion years ago, and I found several exciting moments last time, but Robert found some stuff which I might have overlooked because I watched only I think a couple of the episodes. Now I think all in total I watched 4 episodes, and the entire series is about 116 coincidentally episodes. So there might be some other surprise, but Robert, tell us please what you found in the episodes you watched recently.
Right. Well, let me just start by going over the background. When we talked last, you had pointed me in the direction of this television show called Route 66 from the early 60s. And when we ended, you had sent me a link to watch the one called I'm Here to Kill a King, which is sort of the main one. But like you said, there are some other ones which we'll delve into. And I actually watched the episode that night. I watched it once we got off air. And my initial reaction to this thing was about halfway through it, I actually stopped watching it because my reaction to this thing at first was, this has to be some sort of mock-up. I mean, this thing can't be real. I thought, this has to be some sort of hoax put together by somebody out there with the intent of trying to deceive people like me and you, because it's just too much. It's just too much. Of course, I researched the episode. I researched the entire series. That is not the case. This is a real episode. And there's this episode, I'm Here to Kill a King, which not only seems to completely predict the Kennedy assassination of 1963. I mean, you have allusions in this thing to 9/11, which are quite astounding. And then you have even a reference to a virus of all things. So these episodes, to my opinion, and there's 3 others we'll get into, these things, in my opinion, make everything else kind of look like child's play, because I've never seen anything quite this accurate before when it comes to predicting something or foretelling something or prophesizing something, call it whatever you will. So I've watched the I'm Here to Kill a King episode a couple of times, and I've made notes. I'm going to pull them up. And what I did was, the best way for me to do this was I segregated everything out. I did like all the 9/11 stuff, and then I did all the Kennedy stuff. And I really found as though that the Kennedy stuff was really took the cake. So let me just open a window here. We can start talking about this, and you can jump in, of course. So we had this episode of Route 66 called I'm Here to Kill a King. And just if people don't know it, it's about the assassination of a Middle Eastern monarch taking place in New York State, which involves what appears to be some sort of CIA conspiracy involving it's like an inside job. One of the king's security personnel, this guy named Colonel Zaman, who's played by Robert Loggia, seems to be the guy who's spearheading this whole thing. The episode, as you pointed out last time, was originally intended to air on November 22nd, 1963. This is, of course, the date that Kennedy was, in fact, murdered in Dallas. When you see the episode, you will see immediately why this episode was pulled. And I believe it didn't air. It aired eventually, I believe, in spring of '64.
Yeah.
So we'll just delve into this. Between some of the stuff with Kennedy, and this TV show. I mean, we have hints at Marilyn Monroe, of course, which you pointed out, with who is supposed to be, of course, John F. Kennedy's girlfriend, which is pretty well decided. I mean, it takes place at Niagara Falls, and Monroe made the movie Niagara. And then you have also the reference to the bus stop in it, which was another Marilyn Monroe movie. I mean, you just go through the whole thing. The Milner character, Milner plays two characters in it. He plays the character he usually plays, which is named Todd Stiles, but then he plays the killer in this, who goes by the name of Hades or Cades. What is it? Yeah, Cades.
Paul Cades.
Paul Cades. That's it. And you have reference in this to the Central Intelligence Agency, which is apparently where this guy works. They call it the Central Bureau of Intelligence. I believe it's CBI.
I think Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI.
Yeah, investigation.
It's kind of mush up FBI with CIA.
Yes, it's CBI, I think is what they called it, which is obviously supposed to be the CIA or the FBI, correct?
Sure.
And then you have reference in this thing to, when the monarch arrives, we've got mention of a governor's reception. And of course, we had Governor Connolly in the car with Kennedy. And I believe there was something about meeting the mayor also. And of course, the mayor at the time was Charles Cabell, who changed the parade route. Yeah, it was the Central Bureau of Investigation, which is obviously, like you said, an amalgamation of the CIA and the FBI. The Todd Stiles character stays at a place called Parkway Inn. And as you pointed out, this is, of course, a reference to Parkland Hospital. The Marilyn Monroe stuff we just went over. The couple of the things that are unique is that I thought were very interesting was I'll get to the motorcade and stuff like that. Was you have the Cades character who uses a .38 caliber pistol, and this is the same type of gun that Ruby used to get rid of Lee Harvey Oswald. You have a reference to a ruby of all things, the gem that is given to Stiles as a reward for going to Zaman with the plot. Of course, when Stiles does it, he doesn't realize that it was an inside job. The thing that I found really interesting was, and this is sort of when you watch it, just sort of beneath the surface of this thing. If you watch other episodes, the Todd Stiles character, who is one of the main leads in this thing, if you watch other episodes of the series, he's much more assertive. He's much more sort of on top of his game. But when you watch this one, he plays the role very dopey, I thought, kind of stupid, kind of like a deer in headlights. And you get the impression that the Stiles character, because he looks like the other guy, is clearly designed to be the patsy type figure in this. He's going to take the fall for the assassination.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Exactly. I mean, you definitely get the impression that he's playing this part kind of like as a dope, as a stupid almost, and he doesn't play it like that in some of the other episodes. The one thing that I found very unique, and this one's very tough to pick up on, is when Zaman is talking to Cades at one point, he brings in another character who is going to be the assassin of Cades. And of course, this harkens back to Jack Ruby killing Oswald. And this character's name is Quanjay. And he calls him over and he says, well, once Cades dispatches the monarch, you get rid of the assassin immediately. We can't have any loose ends. And the name Quanjay in English actually means coffee shop or coffee maker. And what makes that so interesting is Jack Ruby, of all things, actually ran a coffee shop in Cuba in the 1950s. I thought that was quite astounding.
Really?
Yeah,
I never knew about that.
Yeah, I thought that was very astounding. And then you get the when the monarch shows up. Of course, the monarch is talks about not being liked because he wants peace. He's a very peaceful monarch, and of course, this harkens to why Kennedy was killed because he wanted to pull out of Vietnam. Then, of course, you have some of the very overt references where you have the monarch in a motorcade. You have the monarch showing up at the spot of assassination. The Cades character shoots him with a high-powered rifle from the grassy knoll, and then is, of course, dispatched at the end by the Jack Ruby.
Aim in the head. Aim in the head.
And through the head, absolutely, and hits him in the head. And they make mention of that. He said, "I'm going to shoot him in the head to make sure that he's dead." Let's see here. Then we have the reference by the monarch, and we talked about this also, to the Dallas Petroleum Club. And of course, we have, of course, a direct reference to the city of Dallas. This is where John F. Kennedy was murdered. And then the Petroleum Club, people don't know this. This was where a man named George de Mohrenschiltz was a member. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to the listeners, he was CIA. He was a black operator for the CIA, and was Lee Harvey Oswald's handler. Was George de Mohrenschiltz. I thought that was very fascinating. So we've got the motorcade, the soft on communism. The Katie's gun is a .38. We talked about that. And the other thing that was interesting was right before the shooting, Katie's and the buddy. This is the guy you sent me, just died. I forget his name.
George Maharis.
Yeah, George Maharis. I forget the name of the character he plays. Buzz something or another.
Buzz.
Yeah, Buzz. They're eating lunch right before the king is shot through the head. And of course, this tallies with where people said they saw Lee Harvey Oswald eating lunch when Kennedy was murdered. I thought that was very interesting. So these are some of the ones I found. You mentioned the thing with the Ruby. That was the reward, and of course we have a reference to Jack Ruby. So anything else? I mean, that was just for the Kennedy stuff. Now there's 9/11 stuff in here also, and I'll point out now there's a scene in it where they're talking to the monarch on the plane, who is on, of course, a United Airlines, and this is, of course, recalls 9/11, the United Airlines flights. And the king is on the plane, and at one point he says, "Well, if you get off the plane," he says, "you got to be careful because there's a brand new virus going around, of all things." I thought that was, of course, very, very mysterious. So that was what I kind of came up for with the Kennedy stuff. Now there is other episodes of this that link to the Kennedy assassination. You pointed me in the direction of the one called "Love is a Skinny Kid," which is the Tuesday Weld episode, where they're approaching this fictitious town in Texas called Kilkenny, of all things, Kilkennedy. And then you'll see 3 miles, and of course 3 shots, 3 miles for Kilkennedy. And there was something else in that was very unique. And then you have
the lunch for 119.
The lunch for 119, and then the bus numbers were 9/11, I believe. It was they add up to 9/11. And then the businessman lunch was 119, which is 9/11 backwards. And there were 2 other episodes which you pointed out to me, which was and again,
Black November.
Yeah, there was Black November, and then there was another one called "Aren't You Glad to See Me?" or "Aren't You Surprised to See Me?" That one.
Aren't you surprised to see me?
That one I thought was very fascinating because that one begins at Dallas in Dallas at Love Field, and this movie is the forerunner of a movie that came out in the 90s called Seven, where you had this guy holding the city hostage because he wants the people to follow the 10 Commandments, and you immediately think of the movie Seven with Kevin Spacey, years later, but you have actual mention of Charles Cabal. Or Richard Cabal, I can't remember. I get him confused. Who was the mayor?
I think Edgar or Edwin Cabell.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Richard and Charles was the 2 brothers. Charles, I think, was in the CIA, and I think Richard Cabal was the head of was the Dallas mayor. I can't remember, but they. But there's actually a mention of him, and then the one thing that's really unique in that episode in the Surprise to See Me was the killer. The serial murderer who is going around from town to town, and of course he winds up in Dallas, identifies himself as John Farrington, and this is what I pointed out to the email in you, and that's a hell of a name to pick, because if you fast forward 11 years to this movie that came out called Executive Action, the Burt Lancaster character in that, who is the CIA black operator planning the Kennedy assassination, uses the name James Farrington.
James,
yeah,
exactly.
And that to me was just amazing. And then you have the Black November, and of course November was the month that Kennedy was killed. You have the George Kennedy, who's the actor in it. As you pointed out to me, he was in a movie called Airport 77. So we have the 77 reference with the goat of Mendes. But there's something also more alarming with this, and I'm not sure if you had picked up on this in your research. You may very well have. was George Kennedy was in a movie called Charade, and I don't know if you've ever seen this or not. It came out in
I
1960.
don't believe I did.
Okay, well, let me talk to you about this movie because years ago, about 8 years ago, I was on a podcast hosted by Sean Stone's, or excuse me, by Oliver Stone's son, Sean. He used to have an old podcast called Buzzsaw. I don't know if he still does it anymore, but this was about 8 years ago. I was on with him, and he brought up this movie from 1963. It's Audrey Hepburn. He said, "Go watch this movie Charade." He thought it had something to do with Freemasonry, and it does feature three assassins in it. But he just thought it was a good movie, and he thought there was stuff going on in it. So I have acquired the movie. Believe it or not, the movie has fallen into the public domain. I believe it was either put out by Universal or MGM, but they did some bad paperwork on it, and the movie is in the public domain. So you can go watch it on YouTube anytime you want. But at any rate, this movie is interesting because George Kennedy, plays an assassin in it, who is trying to murder Audrey Hepburn, and Hepburn in it is winds up being a dupe for the CIA. And the CIA black operator in Charade is Walter Matthau, of all things, who winds up as playing Senator Long in JFK in 1991. But what's also interesting with this is, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, or if they are, maybe they are, maybe they're not, is there is an astonishing list of parallels between Audrey Hepburn and Jackie Kennedy. For instance, both were born in 1929. Both were 5'7". Both loved to ride horses. Both loved
fashion models, fashion icons. I would say fashion icons.
Fashion icons. Both spoke 5 languages. Both could speak French fluently. So you have the whole, Audrey Hepburn, Jackie Kennedy nexus going on. But then what makes this movie even more eerie? It came out about 2 weeks after the Kennedy assassination. I want to say it came out around like December 5th, 10th, in 1963. So it was filmed beforehand. The leading male character in it is Cary Grant, and there's a scene where Audrey Hepburn and her character's name is Reggie Lambert. She's walking along the river in Paris, the Seine, with Cary Grant, and they actually both mention within lines of each other of both being assassinated. And before the movie came out, this was actually very alarming to the studio. They actually thought about going back and reshooting this because of Kennedy just being murdered. I don't believe they did. If you watch the movie today, you'll see this. The word assassination is mentioned twice by them. And again, the makers of the movie were very disturbed by this. And of course, the film was made well before Kennedy was killed in Dallas. So, it's interesting, that movie with George Kennedy in it, being one of the assassins trying to kill Audrey Hepburn. So if you've never seen the movie, check that one out. So, there was, when you couple these 4 episodes together, like I said at the beginning of the show, it really makes everything else. We could sit here and talk, all day long about movies like Fight Club or The Matrix or Vanilla Sky, or Donnie Darko predicting 9/11. Me personally, Vadim, I thought these 4 episodes just, made everything else look like child's play when it came to predicting the murder of JFK. And then the other thing was, and then you pointed this out to me also, was to pay attention to the 9/11 references going on. And that's a whole nother study also. I could start going over those if you want. I know
Sure.
I know you wanted to talk to me about some of the Aleister Crowley numbers with the Kennedy death, which I'm very interested in here. But let me go over some of the 9/11 stuff if you like. And like I said, you can always jump in here. So this was the Route 66 again. I'm here to kill a king. So what do we have to 9/11? Well, of course, the one thing that's obvious is we have the analog clock towards the end of it with the 9/11 time on it. That's hard to miss, by the way, and that's shown very distinctly. That's like in the episode. That's like in the episode you pointed out to me with Love Is a Skinny Kid. They zoom in on Kill Kenny. They zoom in on that. It's like they want you to see.
And by the way, there's nothing which indicates in the episode why is it called Love Is a Skinny Kid. There's no one called Love. There's, Tuesday Weld is not really skinny, I should say, and I think the title of the episode is supposed to point out to the Love Field Airport, where actually Kennedy landed on 22nd, because it's where he landed. He didn't land
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. He landed in left field, and so the guy who was supposed to poison the city in the other episode, aren't you surprised me? He lands in left field in Dallas, and first he calls up the mayor. He leaves the message for the mayor Cabell,
right,
with a threat. So it's some kind of one episode points to the other,
yes.
Then the other points to the other, and then that episode points to the executive action, the movie which comes out 11 years later.
Yes.
So this is just mind-boggling.
I'm with you. And then the other thing was, I'll get into the 9/11 stuff with I'm Here to Kill a King. But then the other one was in the Black November episode, and you'll remember this is when Todd Stiles and Buzz get to the little town, the little podunk town. They said, "Where is everybody?" And I think there's a comment made, "Oh, they must be in lockdown because there's a virus going around," if I remember correctly. Again, I thought, there's some line about a virus going around and people not coming out because they don't want to catch a virus or something. I thought that was interesting. But if we go to the Kill a King episode for 9/11, we got the clock, of course, and then you have the Muslim opening the show praying before two twin statues. That's quite astounding. And then you have, there is a sequence in this show of doubles. You have the two characters played by Martin Milner, the evil twin and the good twin, Styles and Katie's, and then you have the two monarchs. You have the real one and then the fake one. So we have two sets of twins. We have the CIA FBI headquarters in room 211. Of course, 2 is twins, 11 is 11. That literally means twin towers. I thought that was interesting. We've got a repetition of the number 9 on the phone booth. You'll see 99 on the phone booth at one point in time. Let's see here. We did the thing with the opening. And then
Martin Milner, MM is 33 because M put on a side represents the 3, and his mother was born in 1911, and his father, which is a famous Hollywood producer, lived on the address in Hollywood, in Burbank, Riverside or River Drive, 1119.
Yeah. So and then we've got this one. The Robert Loggia Colonel Zaman says the morning prayer begins every morning for the Muslims at 5:15 a.m. 5 + 1 + 5 is 11. And then you have what was the other one? Oh, and then you have him praying to the two statues, of course. Let's see here. And then you have the two number 9s outside the phone booth. And then what was interesting is the morning prayer in the morning. I always took that to mean, if you're familiar with sort of esoteric Islam, I don't know if YouTube's going to censor this or not, but of course YouTube, the Islamic faith incorporates a lot of the adoration of the planet Venus, which is of course the morning light, the son of the morning star, associates with Lucifer from time to time. And you have him praying in the morning, but with the two statues, and then of course this harkens to the actual template for the World Trade Center, where you have the two towers, and then you have the Statue of Liberty, which is the light bearer.
Not to mention that the twin towers are designed in the Islamic tradition, because Minoru Yamasaki, the architect, the American architect of Japanese origin, actually designed, for example, the Mint building of the Monetary Authority of Saudi Arabia, the Dahran airport in Saudi Arabia, and many other projects in Saudi Arabia. He was actually overloaded by commissions from an Saudi king, which he basically rejected. So basically, lots of stuff, including the arches on the first floors of the twin towers, are been designed in the traditional Islamic design. And 93 Flight United 93 monument was actually designed as the Islamic crescent and star, which was actually pointed out by many patriots. and the designers, the architects were actually denying this. But then finally they changed the trees, which were representing the crescent and the star, and kind of made the loop complete. So now from the air it doesn't look like a crescent, but it's still visible, though not so clearly.
Yeah, and you had that, and then you have with the whole thing with Venus and the light bearer. You of course have the Statue of Liberty right near the Twin Towers. And if I'd have to pull up the measurements, but if you take the measurement from the base, from the very bottom of the Twin Towers, and you measure to the top of the torch, that breaks down to the number 9. And of course, the Statue of Liberty sits on the 11-pointed square, so you have 9/11.
Yep.
And then if you take the height of the Statue of Liberty from the top of the torch to the very bottom of the pedestal, it's 93 meters. So that's another tie-in with 93, and you could go with Crowley on that with his.
And 11 points. 11 points is also visible frequently in Islamic designs. The 8-pointed star and 11-pointed star. So it's not very rare.
So yeah, I mean, I thought that these 4 episodes were just really, mind-blowing as to what I saw with predicting, JFK. And then you've got, like I said, and you pointed out, you have, the 9/11 stuff, and you even have stuff relating to the virus. So this really kind of encapsulated everything. And to be honest with you, of all the stuff, I mean, I've been doing this for, over 30 years now. I mean, this was one of those moments where, very seldom do I come face to face with something that surprises me anymore. But this was one of those occasions. And again, just to reiterate what I said from the beginning, at the very beginning of this interview, when I first started watching the To Kill a King episode, I literally stopped it halfway through it, and I thought this was fake. I thought this has to be some sort of hoax or something that someone's made up or spliced together old episodes together or something like that, to make this look real or whatever. But it isn't. I mean, it is. These are all genuine, authentic episodes. Just talking about that now, we also have a reference. We were talking about Twin Towers, the 2 doubles in the episode. We have reference also to us seeing a double feature. That was another reference.
Triple underpass. It was actually shown in the movie, which looked. I don't know if they filmed it in Dallas or it was supposed to look like in Dallas. Maybe they filmed it on the other location, but it looked exactly like a triple underpass where actually Kennedy was shot.
Yeah, when you watch the parade sequence, the motorcade sequence, it looks like excerpts from the Kennedy one. I mean, when they're going down the streets, when they reach when they go underneath the bridge, yeah, I mean, it looks just like the JFK motorcade. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you have the whole thing with the guy shooting the king through the head. I mean, it looks just like the grassy knoll in Dallas. I mean, you got the little, grassy hill right there. Just shot by Quan Jay, then dispatched up by Quan Jay, the coffee maker, Jack Ruby himself. It's astounding. It's just mind-blowing.
What is the origin of the name Quan Jay? I never heard about this.
It's I looked it up. It's an Arabic name, but its English translation means coffee producer, coffee maker. That's what the interpreter told me. And I started investigating this, and it was Jack Ruby actually owned a coffee shop in Cuba in the 1950s before Castro came to power.
And Oswald worked until June of 1963 in the New World Coffee Company. Did you know that? It was a CIA. It was a CIA outfit, I think, in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken. He worked there for several months. He worked there for several months, and it was a CIA outfit. New World Coffee. New World Coffee. How about that?
Yeah, that one's crazy. That one's absolutely crazy. And then you've got the guy. I mean, you have a direct reference to Ruby because that's what he gives to Stiles. That's what Zaman gives for Stiles to turning in, the information. So yeah, I mean, they were just absolutely, amazing to me. Like I said, it was stuff that I had never. I mean, they take the that's the holy grail of television shows, media predicting something, at least in my opinion.
There is this certain pattern emerges when the Patsy, played by Martin Milner, was sitting with the CBI assassin in the car. The Patsy was telling his story in trying to awake some kind of sympathy.
Right. He says, "My name is Lee.
Before there would be assassin. Yeah, my father's name is Lee."
Yeah.
So how about that? He's a Patsy. He's supposed to represent Lee Harvey also, and he tells, "My father's name is Lee."
Yeah, yeah. And here was the other thing that was uncanny about that episode. In that very same scene that you're talking about, there's a line that Katie says, and this is what we were talking about with numbers and breaking down numbers. Katie says to the Stiles character, he says, it's something to the effect of, I guess they ran out of patterns because ours is the best number or something like that. So you have a direct reference to gematria of all things in this by the Katie's character.
But it's also astounding about the Farrington reference, because Farrington is not really a common name. One assassin assumes the name of John Farrington, and the CIA assassin played by Burt Lancaster is James. So he's expiring in the end of the show. How the plotters plan to eliminate the assassin in the end of the "I'm here to kill the king."
Yeah,
and by the way, in the original episode, which I saw first, I think about 10 years ago, now they're not showing exactly the same copy of the episode, and I think the timeline is a little bit shifted several seconds, but. Paul Cadiz comes out of the building and he meets the Patsy, so he's doppelganger, and he says, "I'm here to kill the king" on the 22nd minute and 11 seconds. So it's 22nd of November, right. So 22nd 11th, and now it's shifted several seconds past. So I mean, it's probably 22. 16 or something like that, but it's even 22 would suffice actually to point in the direction of the date of the assassination of the JFK.
Yeah, I agree. I've watched the "I'm Here to Kill a King" episode probably about 3 or 4 times now. I found a very high quality episode a copy of it. It wasn't on YouTube. I found it on another site. That was probably the highest quality I'd ever seen. But I just thought that, and I've watched the Skinny Kid episode, and I've watched the other ones maybe once or twice on those. But no, I mean it's just very unique. And the other thing was what you were telling me was, and this kind of must have been known, the Skinny Kid episode with Tuesday Weld, as you said, because I looked this up. LaVey had dedicated, I think, either the Satanic Bible or the Satanic Rituals. She
is official card-carrying member of the Church of the Satan.
Yeah, but but what made it unique is the church, when this episode was filmed, the Skinny Kid episode, I think it was filmed in 62 or 63. The Church of Satan had yet to exist because they didn't come on the scene till 66.
Yeah,
but
exactly. It comes out in 1966 from San Francisco.
But I thought it was interesting that, it must have been somewhat known that she was into this kind of stuff, because isn't her character, doesn't she play a witch in it or something? Or there's accusations of witchcraft in it, with her character. I thought that was quite fascinating. And then the name.
And she wears the mask. The mask. So it kind of connects with the other episodes where they have the V word, which I don't want to pronounce many times over, so not to get under the algorithms of this platform. So she wears the mask. So it's probably the reference to other episodes which mentioned the V word, which you mentioned already a couple of times. I don't want to repeat it. And
then her character's name was Miriam
Moore.
Miriam Moore. And that harkens to the 2 women who filmed Kennedy being killed. It was I forget their names, but there was 2 women who had very similar
Mary
names.
Muchmore. Muchmore.
And then it was Mary Mormon, I think, was the other one. And they were 2 women who were in Dealey Plaza that morning, and they actually took photos or filmed footage of Kennedy being killed.
And her name, the journalist and the journalist Dorothy Kilgallen, which was killed or some kind of mysteriously died after she interviewed Jack Ruby in a jail. She was the only person who actually got to interview Jack Ruby, which is also surprising. Jack Ruby expired after very, very malicious cancer, which lasted 2 weeks. So it was kind of turbo cancer. And I don't know if you're familiar with the book Mary Sherman Monkey by Edwin Haslam. If you don't read this book, because it appears to be that Ruby, Oswald, and several other characters which were involved into the assassination of Kennedy were working in a secret lab, designing some kind of custom-made cancer to eliminate Fidel Castro in the New Orleans lab, which belonged to the Tulane University, which was actually one of the centers of the bio warfare in the U.S. in that time.
The guy, there was a doctor or something that they think injected Ruby with the cancer, and I think he just died. But he was a CIA black operator also. I can't remember his name. But then there was David Ferry, who was experimenting with the cancer cells.
Yeah,
was
played by what's
Pesci.
His name?
Joe Pesci.
Yeah, Joe Pesci, exactly, in the Oliver Stone JFK movie '91. But there's more. Do you know that the song Ruby Tuesday is actually dedicated to Tuesday Well? So how about the connection between Jack Ruby, Ruby Tuesday, and Tuesday Well?
Yeah, I was aware that Ruby Tuesday was dedicated to her, but I thought it was interesting, like you said, with the mask. She comes out wearing this ugly mask, and it's never really explained why she's wearing it. This like horrific Japanese mask of some kind, and I took it to mean that this was some sort of like demon or something like that, and was supposed to sort of represent her fascination with the dark arts. I could be wrong, but that's kind of, I mean, it's never explained ever why she's wearing this mask.
No, because she wasn't actually disguising herself in the second part of the movie, and there was actually the special focus on a bus stop, because she comes off the bus.
Right.
So they show on the bus stop, right? And they show on the bus stop several times over. And why? Because she actually played in a television show Bus Stop, where actually Marilyn Monroe played in 1956. Right. So she is Miriam Moore in this episode. She plays in 1962 also in a bus stop where Marilyn Monroe played in 1956. So there's some kind of interconnection by name, by titles, and on the other levels as well.
And then you had, and I can't remember, I think it's in the Kill a King episode, but it might have been in the Skinny Kid, where the number on the bus is 9/11. It's like 7/4.
I don't remember, but it might be. It sums up. There are 4 numbers, so the 4 digits.
You add them both. Yeah, 9. It's like 5. It's like 5/4 and like 7/4 or something. It's 9/11 or whatever. It's something like that.
Yeah. But also in the episode, aren't you surprised to see me? Was this guy with 10 commandments and a poison, which was supposed to poison Dallas population with some kind of biologic weapon. I don't know if you catch it when. Martin Milner and his buddy Buzz arriving to to Dallas, they check into a hotel, and what they see the convention of the executive secretaries. Remember that? And they actually focusing, they're panning over the whole of the convention hall, and they showing the pretty ladies, which are executive secretaries. They actually penning into the name shield, the yearly convention of the executive secretaries. And as you told me, this episode points out to the executive action movie, which comes out 11 years later. And in this same episode, they actually say this guy already killed several executives.
Yeah.
For no particular reason. Executives, not just the people, but executives.
And then how about when they're in Dallas? This is the Buzz character. He works at the Trade Mart, which is where Kennedy was
World
supposed to
Trade
go.
Center.
Yeah, to go give the speech. This is where he was going to when he was shot. Was the Trade Mart, and that's where Buzz works in the episode. That's amazing.
And there's something we forgot to mention, because when this episode was probably in the making, in 1963, in June 27, Kennedy goes to the New Ross in Ireland and gives there the speech, where actually the local newspaper reports that there's a strong connection of JFK to Kilkenny, because New Ross and Kilkenny just a stone's throw away, and they actually mention on a Kilkenny Live portal on the internet that the longtime Kilkenny resident, Mary something,
Right.
98 years old, gives to the city very valuable gift, which is the actually a newsreel with the recording of Kennedy's speech. So the Kilkenny and Kennedy are actually related on several levels. How they know? How would they know he would go to Kilkenny on 27th of June? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not only is it Kilkenny, Ireland, but it's as you pointed out, it's Kilkennedy is really what the name is saying, and then it's next to it is three shots.
Three shots.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
Do you know actually what is the meaning of the Irish surname Kennedy?
Go ahead.
Kinda ditch, wounded head.
That's crazy.
Check it out. I'm not making it up. It's spelled usually with a C, so it's like Kaenadech.
Right.
So I don't know how to pronounce it correctly in Gaelic, but sure, the meaning is there. So this kind of stuff, I think they playing out several times, because for example, if you see the album of Kanye West, which is also a very strange character in many ways, there is the king's head pierced by sword on the cover of his album, which is called Power. And also Kanye West is dressed like a Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. And as you already mentioned, remember there is a strong connection, Kennedy and Wizard of Oz and Frank Baum and Aleister Crowley in many levels. For example, first one, the biggest supporter of the Kennedy campaigns was the Judy Garland, which played, of course, Dorothy in Wizard of Oz. So Kennedy several times confessed when he was a kid he was very much fond of the Wizard of Oz movie, and then he got to meet famous Judy Garland, which was actually helping him with the campaign, right? So Wizard of Oz, everything is emerald and green, and there's even the book of Kennedy couple. First, it's called the Emerald Kings or Emerald Kingdom, and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy actually was selling her emerald collier, the emerald necklace, on the auction. So there is some kind of, I think, deliberate parallels between Wizard of Oz and everything what concerns Kennedy. And moreover, if you go to the museum, you can go and actually check it out online in the museum. There is the actual boots and the Resistol hat belonging to Jack Ruby in the museum. So the boots and the hat. And do you know where Resistol company based at?
Go ahead.
You wouldn't believe me. In the Garland, Texas. Garland, Texas. So how they do that? And remember, there was multiple emphasis on the Ruby shoes. Like they spent $300,000 repairing those original Ruby shoes, which were on the movie set on Judy Garland while she was playing Dorothy. They spent $300,000 repairing the shoes. I mean, would you believe it?
Yeah.
300.
Well, this gets into what we were talking about with Crowley, because, if you read his books on gematria, 77 is the goat of Mendez. He wrote a book called Book 77, Liber Oz,
Exactly.
which is Oz, which he called 77 is Oz,
which was called before originally the Book of Goat, because Oz is the Hebrew name of goat.
Right. Yeah, Oz. That's right. And then you have the number 77, as we were talking about, repeating with the license plate with GG, the route 77
on the presidential Lincoln.
Right, and then you have the route 77, which is where he was heading. But then it's like, what we were talking about with the emails is you get the number 77 turning up with Kennedy. The one thing that I always thought was interesting, and this goes back to the episode with the Killer King episode. If you watch it very closely at the beginning, when they go to when the not Todd Stiles, when the Katie's character goes to see the Muslim colonel, he knocks on the door and it's answered by the woman. And if you look very closely, the number on the door is 71. And I kind of played around with it, but the one thing that was interesting was the year 1971. That was the year when John F. Kennedy's sort of arch nemesis, Nikita Khrushchev, died at 77 years old. George,
hold on. He died, I think. I'm not sure, but he died on September the 11th.
Yeah, I think it was.
I don't know if it's been arranged or it's just sheer coincidence, but it is a fact.
But then you also had the guy who killed Robert Kennedy, or at least I think his name was like Thane Caesar something or another, who died on
Eugene Caesar. Eugene Caesar.
He died on 9/11, I think, of 19. And then you had with 77 with Kennedy, you had George de Mohrenschildt, I think either died at 77 or in 1977. Teddy Kennedy died, was 77 years old. And then JFK Jr. died on July 16th, which is 7th month, 1 + 6 is 7. So we do have this repeating 77 with Crowley, Oz, Kennedy, the goat of Mendez. I mean, yeah, it's just too much.
The book about Kennedy was called The Emerald Kings of America, by what's his name? The Emerald Kings by Thomas Meyer or Mahler, I cannot read it. But what is also interesting, if you fast forward to this movie Airport 77, which is again 77, because even the principal witness in the Kennedy investigation or by Warren Commission, he died when he was 77, which is strange. Okay, so if you fast forward to Airport, where George Kennedy was playing the pilot,
right?
Look at the appearance of the character. Who do we have on the top? Jack Lemmon. So JFK, Jack Kennedy, right? So right underneath, Lee Grant, right? And right underneath is James Stewart and George Kennedy, and then again Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
So they put in the actors related to the Kennedy assassination by numbers or by surnames or by names into the movie, which is associated with 77, and putting the actor with the surname of Kennedy. And we already discussed that 77 invitation cards to the inauguration dinner was sent out by Kennedy's to the White House.
And then you had and then with Crowley also, I pointed this out, was I think in one of the emails was the expiration date on the license plate on Kennedy's limo was March 31st, which is 331. 3 times 31 is 93, which is of course Crowley's maxim of "do what thou wilt," within gematria. So again, we have just Crowley crawling all over the place with this stuff.
Okay, and there's also a reference to 42, because of course the Dorothy and Tin Man and the lion and what's his name?
The Scarecrow.
Yeah, the Scarecrow. They go on by the yellow brick road, where beyond the rainbow, And you know that what is the relationship of the rainbow and the number 42? The rainbow is only visible with the degree of view. I mean, the vantage point of by 42 degrees. So there is a direct mathematical relation between 42 and a rainbow, and the Pink Floyd with the album Dark Side of the Moon, actually referencing this prism,
right,
and the rainbow. So they actually referencing 42. So Dorothy is related to the rainbow, related to number 42. And if you look the movie with Robin Williams, which is called Jack. So they're showing the birth of Jack, and they're showing the lady which was giving birth wearing ruby shoes. I mean, not just ruby shoes, but the ruby shoes from the Wizard of Oz. So they actually pointing in this movie to the Wizard of Oz and number 42, and 42 is also visibly representation of Jupiter, because if you look at the alchemical sign of Jupiter, it looks like 42. So there's unbelievable multi-level interconnection between all these movies, which are fictional. And by the way, Dorothy Gale in gematria, in Chaldean gematria, is 42.
That's crazy.
So it's not been by accident. Okay, then you go further. There's of course the famous song, which is sung by Judy Garland, Dorothy Gale, Over the Rainbow. And it was sung by whom? It was sung by children of very well-known school where happened certain events. I can't pronounce it here, but it has to do with Sandy. Remember what happened in 2012 in Sandy, right? I don't want to pronounce because there are certain filters. Okay, and you look at the record label where Judy Garland recorded, I think, one of her last album. It's called, hold on, it's called Jenny. I think Jenny got, or Annie Got a Gun, and the record label called Sandy Hook Records.
That's crazy.
Would you believe it? 1981. Okay, and then again, 1 year later, the children of the same school where it happened, on the anniversary of this, let's say, mass event, they sung Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, Frank Baum is, of course, like you know, and you told it many times over, he was a follower of Helena Blavatsky. He was a very deep into the theosophy movement, and even his original waistcoat somehow turned out on the set of the filming Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
so
I
they said
that.
somehow, curiously, original Frank Baum waistcoat turned out on a set. Nobody knew that it belonged to Frank Baum, and then this is what, about 30 something years after his death. What a coincidence! I mean, would you believe it?
Yeah, crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
I think there's some more stuff on Dorothy. Okay, so about this Judy Garland album, it's called exactly Annie Get Your Gun, Sandy Hook Records, 1981, 33 1/3 RPM. Check it out. And of course, this 7/11 references, one misspelled 9/11 by Trump, which said, well, on 7/11 I was there. He said I was in New York. Of course, he didn't misspell anything, because 7/11 and 9/11 are directly related, because 7/11 is a Roman way to pronounce September the 11th, because they are off by 2 months, the Gregorian and Julian calendar. So basically, the 7/11 franchise is not just like by accident named 7-11. So it has direct reference to that, and of course 7 times 11, 77.
Right.
And they actually pointed it out many times over in the House of Cards, because remember that Jack Underwood, Kevin Spacey, right? The guy comes to Jack Underwood with a big Slurpee bowl or a plastic cup from 7-Eleven, which says Slurpee, and of course it's 7 ounces and 11 by accident, and 7-Eleven served that from 7 to 11, 7 in the morning to 11 in the evening, and all that is interconnected.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'll give you let me look this up. Hang on. There was a nexus between Crawley and 9/11 that you can get. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a really
the flight 93. Okay, first flight 93. Okay. On 9/11, flight 93. Okay, right, and 93 is a sum of all tarot cards. And of course, it's a numerical representation of Thelema,
right,
and Agape.
Yeah, if 93 is the breakdown of the maximum of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And of course, you had flight 93, and then you had the one flight. I think it was flight 11 or 175 hit the 93rd floor in the World Trade Center.
Between the floors, I think it was between 88 and 93rd. But it's
like
not accident. And of course, the first bombing of Twin Towers occurred on 1993.
Right, that's
93.
Right. And then you have this one I thought was really interesting, was in the Book of the Law. This is Crowley's, the thing that was dictated to him by AWAS. He ends it with this line. He says, "The Book of the Law is written and concealed," and he signs it Om Ha. And if you go into the analysis of what this means, Crowley does a commentary on it. This is when you get into that the number Ha is number 6, and Om equals 111. So if you multiply 6 times 111, you get 666, which is the number of the sun. And then of course it's Crowley's number. And you've probably seen the solar disk, where it's the magic square with the sun, where all the sides equal 111, the 6 sides equal 111. Vertically and horizontally. So you get 111 6 times to 666. But then if you go to the date 9/11, I thought this was really crazy. That if you go to the 9/11, not 9 is, if you use gematria here, and this is just me using gematria, you get Crowley's number. You get 666 because you get 9. If you take the date 9/11/01, 2001. You get 9 from September, which is the 9th month. Then you get 11. Well, if you add 11 to 9, you get 20. So 2 plus 0 is 2. And then you go to 2001. You get 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 equals 3. So then you get 2 times 3 is 6. And then this is where this thing really gets crazy, is that like the sun disk, September 11th means there are 101 and 11 days left. So you have 111 days left to the Gregorian solar calendar. So you get 6 times 111 to get 666, the number of Crowley, the number of the beast, the number of the sun. I thought that was just crazy.
Okay, how about the album by Marilyn Manson, of course, which is amalgamation of Charles Manson and Marilyn Monroe, which is called King Kill 33, and it is directly related to the Kennedy assassination, because there Manson writes the Lincoln on the streets of Dallas, and it is actually a mock-up of the assassination, and there he's crucified on the cross, and on one of the episodes he appears. I don't exactly remember whether it's in this album or the next one. Say 10. I mean, say like you tell us, say, and then 10 like 10, but it's obviously reference to Satan. Marilyn Manson appears in a beret, and it's kind of Basque or French beret, and a little modest suit, which was worn by Edward Fox in the Day of the Jackal. So where actually the Jackal was supposed to assassinate Charles de Gaulle.
Right,
so
that's right.
Marilyn Manson appears exactly in the same image. So referencing actually that he knows what was about the entire assassination of Kennedy, because he names the album King Kill 33. So he knows. I mean, this guy is first a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan. There's the very famous picture of Marilyn Manson and Sandra LaVey together.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandra LaVey is always alleged that he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. I don't know whether it's true or not, but he always alleged that.
He said, I mean, he said, I mean, this is Anton LaVey talking, so we always have to take it with a grain of salt. But LaVey had claimed that that he had an affair with a woman named whatever it is, Norma Jean Baker, and performed black magic and sexual necromancy and turned Norma Jean Baker into Marilyn Monroe. That's what LaVey claims.
Yeah, but also this strange movie with Robin Williams, Jack, right? So his mother gives the birth of Jack wearing those ruby shoes, the ruby shoes. Okay, and in the title of the movie, if you look at the poster, it shows Robin Williams in a rainbow colors, so somewhere over the rainbow. And then there's the inscription: he's a healthy 10-year-old who is growing 4 times faster than normal. Now he is about to take off on the biggest adventure. So if you read the entire sentence, he's growing 4, and then below 4 there's 2, but 2 like 2 pointed in direction, but it's actually 42. So they encoded the entire poster, and there's the direct references by Ruby Shoes and the names within the movie itself, because there is the Ruby character played by Lily Sabetsky, and there's the witch and the Tin Man as well. And by the way, who is the original Tin Man?
Jack Haley.
Mr. Jake Haley. And who is the author of the Airport 77?
Who was it? I can't remember.
Arthur Haley.
Oh, Arthur Haley. That's right.
Where's the different spelling?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they deliberately doing this. I mean, there's no way this to be some kind of synchronicity or an accident. They put in the people bearing certain numerological traits or the meaning of the names in a certain movies, like you call it occult casting, and you're probably very much right in this. And they're doing it like over 100 years. Check it out. The Jack with Robin Williams.
Yeah, I definitely take a look, and I'll also mention, I mentioned this to you in an email, and I double checked this. I mean, this again, just is just too crazy to me. Is that and I've checked this a dozen times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. But if you look at the 4 flights on 9/11, Flight 11, 175, 93, and 77, between the passengers, the terrorists, and the crew, you can break every flight down to the number 9 and 11.
Exactly.
I mean, for example, on Flight 11 had 81 passengers, including the 5 hijackers, and 11 crew. 8 plus 1 is 9, 11, 9, 11. Flight 175 had 9 crew and 56 passengers, including the 5 terrorists. So 9, and then 5 plus 6 is 11, 9, 11. Flight 93 had 33 passengers, 7 crew, 4 hijackers. So you have 3 times 3 is 9, 7 plus 4 is 11, 9, 11. And of course, Flight 77, this one's the best one of all, was traveling at exactly 33% capacity. So 3 times 3, 9, 6 crew, 5 hijackers, 5 plus 6, 11, 9, 11. That just to me is amazing.
Okay, how about the name of the patsy? Is Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald, which is Oz.
Oz, right?
Oz. It's no accident, because in several movies, the actress Robin Tunney, or I don't know exactly how the surname is pronounced, Tunney or Tony, She plays in 3 movies, and she plays in Wizard of Oz, I think one of the latest adaptations. So hold on a second, Robin Tunney, and she plays in the Zodiac, right, about this very strange murders in Zodiac. But try to read Zodiac other way around, in reverse. Zodiac, Oz. And you know why? I'm not making it up. It's just not an assumption. It's for sure, because there's a movie Unknown with Liam Neeson, which is by no way related by plot or any other stuff to the Wizard of Oz or other. It's a spy movie, right? Unknown. So this guy walks in a Berlin subway station, and everywhere he goes, there's a graffiti, which has not actually ever been explained in the movie. It has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, but it shows Oz. Just check it out.
Yeah.
It appears there in different places, like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, that's nuts. I'll have to take a look at that.
And where did they play the musical? I think it's called Good Wizard of Oz or something like that. With what's her name? Jesus Christ. The good friend of Michael Jackson's.
Who, Madonna?
No. The black singer, the very, very big one. I mean, I forgot about not the Gloria Gaynor. Hold on. What's with my memory, man?
Oh, I know. It knocks me out too.
Diane Ross.
Diane Ross.
So she plays there in the musical in 1978, and it is been displayed by a certain installation underneath of Twin Towers. So
you're talking about are you talking about the one movie that she made where she played Dorothy? That's the Wiz. Is that what you're talking about?
The Wiz, but it is about the Wizard of Oz.
It's a remake of the Wizard of Oz. Right.
Yeah, you can still catch the old pictures displaying Twin Towers and this setup of this movie of course, in emerald colors.
Crazy. Yeah, that's right.
So they're connecting the Twin Towers and Oz, and thus Crowley.
Yeah, that's crazy. Nuts.
Yeah. So there's so much stuff. For example, the George Bush Sr. supposed taking part in the assassination, right? Right. There's a photograph of him in a Veterans Cup with number 77, and the goat.
Yeah. The numeric designation, I think, of the ship that they named after Bush was
77.
Was
USS 77.
Yeah,
George
was 77.
Bush. USS 7. I mean, this is the deliberate link between all those people, which on the surface have nothing to do with each other, but they all link to Crowley, Goat, 77, and Kennedy, by hook or by crook.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think there's more stuff. Even Prince William, wearing at his uniform, I think in the mid of 2005 or 2006, the goat. It's probably the patch of his detachment, and he's showing the hornet hand. Prince William.
Yeah.
But it's very rare photo of him.
Yeah, that's that's insane. I haven't looked at Prince William in some time, so I'll definitely have to take a look at it. But
he's wearing the patch. So first, on one side, there's a goat. Then there is also the horns and the number 115, and twice 115, which sums up to 77.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
the horns between 115 and 115, which sums up to 77.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's all you find it all over the place. Even like I was on another show the other night. The Waco compound sat on 77 acres, which is off Route 77.
It has been shown on a Route 76, exactly, Waco. So
Yeah.
the two really existing places like Dallas and Waco, where actually something happens a little bit later. In
Right.
Dallas, very, very, very soon, and Waco 30 years later. But it shaped the society.
Didn't it? I want to look something up.
And there's I've just mentioned House of Cards and Frank Underwood, played by Kevin Spacey. So the Slurpee made by 7-Eleven prominently featured in this episode, and even Obama mocking Frank Underwood in the I think a National Press Club meeting. He says, "I'm not Frank Underwood," or something like this, and he some kind of salutes to Kevin Spacey, which was present, I think, in the at this gathering. And then Kevin Spacey actually plays in the music clip, which is I forgot the artist, but he runs on the 7th floor and knocks the 11th door. This is actually refrain of the song.
Yeah, that you were right about Nikita Khrushchev. By the way, he died on September 11th at 77.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. 77. What an excellent.
Yeah, and if you watch that Killer King episode, the number on the door is 71. Interesting. So fascinating.
And of course, Bush and Crowley relationship, supposed relationship, but there's a strong indication that they are really related by blood. And of course, Pentagon is 77 foot tall, right?
Yeah. Well,
which was hit.
It was hit by Flight 77, and it sits on the 77th meridian, and
7 stories tall. 7 stories tall.
Do you know there was a military aircraft guarding the Pentagon the morning? Do you know what the call numbers were? It was
I think something like 9/11 or something.
No, it was Venus 77 was the number.
Yeah. Now I remember. Exactly.
Venus is crazy because Venus has the pentagonal orbit around the Earth, so you have the number 5 with the Pentagon. But Venus in antiquity was the 7-pointed star, so it's literally the name of the aircraft was 777.
Yeah, and of course the first plane, the Flight 175, hits the Twin Tower at 9:03.
Right, 93. Yep.
Yeah.
And building 7 collapsed later in the day at 5:02. 5 plus 2 is 7.
Yeah, and this Flight 175 hits between the floor 77 and 85.
Yeah, that's right.
Supposedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Robin Tooney in Zodiac, check it out. Because this is the famous murder spree which never been solved. I mean, there are some clues now, or at least the police is showing us that there is some strong indication that the guy who actually perpetrated all these murders was actually suspected, but then let go.
Yeah, the guy who they all thought it was Arthur Lee Allen, was the guy that they thought was the Zodiac, but they couldn't pin him down.
Yeah, but all this stuff about the Zodiac, it has to do also with alchemy and the actual Zodiac, because if you look the movie with Clint Eastwood, where he hunts the some kind of maniac, which calls himself Zodiac, which has nothing to do with that. Zodiac killing.
That's the first Dirty Harry movie. That's the guy with Scorpio. Yeah. That's based on the Zodiac Killer. Yeah, that was based on the Zodiac Killers. The Clint Eastwood character of Dirty Harry is based on David Toschi, who was the lead San Francisco investigator who investigated Zodiac. If you watch the Zodiac movie, the David Fincher movie, there's a scene in it where Toschi actually goes to see the Dirty Harry movie. But then if you watch it carefully, the diner that Toschi is always eating in, with whether it's with Graysmith or the guy, is named Callahan's, which is Dirty Harry's last name, Dirty Harry Callahan. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, but there's also, I mean, actual alchemical connection between the zodiac and the location of the signs, because this guy Scorpio is directly opposite the sign which represents Clint Eastwood. So Clint Eastwood is the shooter, right? So he's an archer, right? And he's right opposite of Scorpio. If you look at the zodiac sign, actual zodiac sign,
right?
And by the way, the original Wizard of Oz had a budget $2,777,000.
Yeah, that's too much.
$777,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. The Zodiac killer. There's lots of theories on him, because if you look, I mean, like, for example, one of the first letters he sent to the San Francisco Chronicle, he mentions killing 12 people. Of course, 12 houses of the Zodiac. Then there's evidence that he might have been a water sign, because a lot of the killings happened around water. You know, Lake Berryessa, Lake Herman Drive.
That's a smiley faces killings. Yeah, the so-called smiley faces.
The Blue Rock Springs, and then, but then also his killings seem to have occurred like around, you know, I mean, I think one of them happened like the day before Halloween. Then there was one on the 4th of July. So, you know, there was this interplay. Was he killing around the solstices and, you know, the different holidays? But it's like you said, it's never been solved. The guy they thought was this guy named Arthur Lee Allen. But he died. He died like in 92 or 93. And they were going to interview him again, but he died of a heart attack. So who knows?
I think they even alluded to this situation with this Gary Lee Allen guy with the movie where Shia LaBeouf, I think, played the journalist, and he was actually is it Shia LaBeouf or Jack Gyllenhaal?
Jack Gyllenhaal was in Zodiac. Jack Gyllenhaal was in
exactly.
Zodiac.
So they alluded to this guy, which actually passed away unpunished. And by the way, I made a screenshot in 2016. I'm just looking at this. It was a screenshot from one of the news agencies. So it says, how many mass shootings have happened since Sandy blah blah? You know what I'm talking about. The Sandy blah blah tragedy, horrific as it was, is now only the 3rd deadliest. At around 2 a.m., according to its data, 77% of mass blah 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 involve firearm. 77%.
Yeah.
So there you go. 77% somewhere over the rainbow, and of course the Sandy Hook records. Judy Garland, Annie, get the gun.
Yeah. Too much.
Too much. Exactly.
Too much. So, all right. You want to call it a day on that?
Yeah, one of the last ones. Last cherry on the top of the this cake.
Top of the sundae.
M.T. Jenkins, 77, doctor who tried to revive Kennedy. Dr. Marion Thomas Jenkins, the Texas anesthesiologist who tried to resuscitate both President John F. Kennedy and his assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, 31 years ago, died on Monday at his home in Dallas. He was 77.
Oh, and that reminded me of another one what you just said, and this was an homage in the Route 66 in the Love Is a Skinny Kid episode. If you remember when Tuesday Wells, she's still wearing the mask, she goes into the newspaper to place the ad, and then she comes out, and Burt Reynolds and his gang start like bullying her, and Buzz comes over and starts talking to her. If you remember this was interesting. He calls her Rosie or Rose. And of course, you could look at that two ways. Is of course you could look at it as Rose Kennedy, who was John F. Kennedy's mother, but then the guy, and I can't remember his first name, but the guy who in Parkland Hospital, who tried to stop the Secret Service from taking the body back to Bethesda, was named like Frank Rose. He was a coroner. So I thought that was kind of interesting also.
Yeah, but don't you remember? I told you last time. The hooker who used to work for Jack Ruby, her name was Ross Jeremy, like Jeremy,
Right,
dear friend, right?
She's in the movie.
So she was riding in a police car, and she told that she overheard discussion at the Ruby's place that they're trying to assassinate the president. Of course, they never believed her, and then several days later, they found the body.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was Rose Jeremy, who was like a Jack Ruby prostitute, who overheard Ruby talking about the assassination with either Clay Shaw or David Ferry or both of them.
Yeah, and then finally, John F. Kennedy assassination. Key witness James Tagg dies at 77.
77, and his brother, John F. Kennedy's brother,
Edward Kennedy, dies at 77. Exactly.
Yep.
Howard C.H. Donahue, 77, ballistics expert, studied Kennedy's death. 21st December 2112, so 33. 1999, Howard Charles Hinman Donahue, retired gunsmith and nationally known ballistic expert, who concluded that a Secret Service agent fired the bullet that killed President John F. Kennedy, died Thursday of complications of pneumonia at his Towson home.
Yeah, crazy.
So there's a long row of these people who died at 77 or related by numerology to 77, which were involved somehow either to the conspiracy or investigation or cover up of the conspiracy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as you pointed out, when you get into even just the assassination, the license plate was GG whatever, which is the letter G, which is the seventh letter for 77.
Seventh letter, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and of course, Dorothy Gale is 42. I mean, we could go on probably for another 2 hours with this stuff, because this is really. I think if you check more thoroughly what you know already of Lyman Frank Baum, Wizard of Oz, and Kennedy, and now having the certain numbers and the movies which we just tossed around, I think you'll find another very valuable keys which would be probably pointing to the other movies.
Yeah, like they're somehow linked.
Yeah. So, but by the way, remember in the I think in the second episode of the Back to the Future, so Marty McFly comes to the Hill Valley, and it's already I think it's in the past, right? So they asking, where are you from? And he said, I live at the Kennedy Drive, and he makes a wink and shows the gun. Just look at this episode. So he sits with his nice people at his home, and they ask him, where are you from? I live at the Kennedy Drive, and they didn't know who Kennedy was because it was 1950 something.
Right, that's right. Yeah, that he says something to the effect of, he's like, oh, wait a minute. He's like, that's John F. Kennedy Drive, and he says, who's John F. Kennedy? Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but just pay attention to what he does. He makes the sign of the gun, and he gives the wink.
Now,
I mean, it's not for nothing. I mean, Zemeckis is a notorious guy because he made 1985 Back to the Future, several episodes, and then 30 years later he comes up with the walk pointing to the Philip Petit, which actually walked the line which was spanned between the Twin Towers in 1974.
Right.
So this guy first walked between the Twin Towers of the Notre Dame de Paris, and then he illegally walked between the Twin Towers, and he wrote the book. And then basically Zemeckis in 1985 probably pre-planned. I don't think it was just unplanned flash of creation thought or something like that. I think it was completely premeditated. So he basically showed Philippe Petit walking the line, and his Gordon, what's his name? Gordon Levitt, who played Philippe Petit, which looks actually nothing like real Philippe Petit because he's still alive. he dressed him up like Marty McFly, and he even combed his hair the style which was Marty McFly wearing in 1985. So there's something to it as well. And of course, Marty McFly, MM again. There you go again, MM.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I mean, yeah, I got into a lot of the stuff with Back to the Future with the number 88. That's interesting also. Some of the symbolism.
Oh, that's on itself is a huge area of research. But even going away from this, you just concentrate that in the original 1985 episode of Back to the Future, the first guy who was actually casted on the role of Marty McFly was Eric Stoltz.
That's right.
Right, and they actually shot, I think, 2 months of the footage, so wasted probably a couple of $1 million shooting Eric Stoltz, and then they replaced him by Michael J. Fox, because Fox is 666. Probably he fitted the bill more accurately than Eric Stoltz. But then later, where did Eric Stoltz play later? He played in the Fly 2. Fly.
Right.
And he played Marty. He played Marty. So there's something going on there. Some really deep hanky-panky.
Yeah, weird stuff to say the least.
So this Zemeckis is a really notorious guy. But I mean, I was really surprised to see the scope of his planning. So probably back in 1985, he planned the movie which was supposed to come out 30 years later. So he didn't just come out with the Walk in 2015, referencing his old movie. No, he planned it in 1985, because if you remember, they were traveling in 2015 in the future. Remember?
Right. Yes. Right. That's at the end of the first one, and that's where the second one takes place, or part of it. Right. I remember.
So I'm pretty sure you'll find lots of other stuff in the other episodes of Route 66, because they will probably point out to the other movies, probably in the future, like Executive Action, because there are 116 episodes, and they may not be directly related all to the Kennedy, but there might be some other stuff which is as deep and as wide as we just unearthed.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'll probably watch, start going through some of those as well, because that's really uncanny. But yeah, I mean, the stuff, I mean, if you were to find nothing else other than those 4 episodes, I mean, that's enough. That's just,
it's already good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough.
To reopen the case of assassination. But of course they wouldn't do that. But I mean, if you were a policeman or the judge, you would probably reorder the review of the case. But of course, it will never happen.
So yeah, interesting stuff.
Okay, Robert. Thank you very much for your brilliant input. I think we'll meet sometime later with the new finds, and they will definitely show up. I mean, I can bet my life on this.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it either. We'll let me play around with it some more, and we'll meet maybe towards the end of the summer, and we'll catch up and exchange notes again.
Okay, Robert. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you, Vadim. Have a good evening.
Okay, good evening.
Bye-bye.